Hey guys, Brian here from Liquid Concepts. So today on our weekly tips and tricks video, we're going to talk about air and the effects that water might cause in your air. So a lot of y'all have probably already weathered the summer. Some of us are still in it a little bit down in the southern states. Some of the northern states, of course, are a lot more colder, but it's still a problem whether you have cold temperatures or warmer temperatures. You still want to make sure you have a good quality air that is dry before it goes into either your paint gun or any of your tools or anything like that. So we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about a little bit of the maintenance side of getting a good quality finish. And so one of the things that I kind of wanted to go over is we've got our desiccant air system, and this is on our paint booth that we've got, and there's a couple of different types that you can use to get the best results for getting dry air and clean air. So to kind of go over a little bit about it, with the desiccant system, you're going to get pretty much you're going to get dry air, you're going to get clean air. Of course, it's not suited for breathable air. You got to have like a whole separate unit, but for a paint gun system or something like that, it's definitely the way to go because it pulls out all the moisture because it has beads in it, the desiccant, that pulls the moisture out and keeps it in the desiccant, and then you replace your desiccant every so often. And so like on this one we've had for a few years now, or actually longer than that, but we kind of make sure that we write down, you know, replaced on whenever we replaced it. And then it's also got an indicator right here showing we've got either blue, pink, or white. And so you can see how we still got almost a blue. It's starting to barely change to a pink. So we're probably we're about getting ready to change it. But whenever it gets to the white, it's a very saturated, change it immediately. So those are really nice indications on knowing that you have a good, clean, dry air going into your paint system. And not even just paint, but for any of your air tools or anything like that, that's definitely a good thing that you want to have. And so especially even for like hydrographics, if you have water in your lines and you're spraying your activator or anything like that, that's something that you definitely want to make sure of, that you try to keep out of those lines, because the water mixed in with the activator doesn't make for a good day. And even whenever you have water mixed in with any of your paints, any of your primers, especially your clears, you're not going to be happy with the results. I can guarantee you that, because I've been there and it's not fun. So these are probably the most simple type of cleaners that you've got. This one is like more of a 3-stage filter. So you've got a larger filter right here that catches most of the particles, like larger particles. Then you have a smaller filter right here that catches some of the minute particles, also some of the oil and water separators. And they've also got drains right here to drain out if it does catch any. And actually you can kind of see, we can twist, let's see here. Okay, so apparently I thought they'd twist off, apparently not. But anyways, we'll pull them down, twist them. They've got a nice little sight glass, kind of like what this one has, and then you can see what all is in there. Whenever you need to change it, you can pop it down. They're really easy to change. This one, of course, has the desiccant beads in it. Take the top off, take the bottom off, fill the bottom up with the desiccant beads all the way to the top. Put it back on, you're good to go. And so now from here out into the air, into the wherever you have, whether it be your paint booth or your spray area or anything like that, you now have clean and dry air that has no oil, no moisture, anything like that. So these are going to be the cheapest routes to go. These will range between $150 all the way up to you can get them upwards of $1,000 possibly. And so that's one of the things where having good air is definitely the way to go. Now they make a couple of different kinds of cleaners that you can have for this. And so another one that you have is a refrigerated air dryer. And so we'll go over that one here in just a few minutes, but this one is what we mainly use on our paint booth. And so we also have another main one that we use for the entire shop. So this is actually for us more of a secondary type of filter instead of our main filter. Now For the smaller shops, something like this right here could definitely be a main filter, and you're running a couple of lines off of it, perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead, show you guys a couple of different refrigerated air dryers, show you some differences on them, and then hopefully that'll help you make an educated decision on which route you want to go, what types are better, why, and then also price point, you know, because that's definitely a big concern for a lot of customers. So stay tuned. Okay, so as I was saying before, you can also get a refrigerated air dryer to help dry your air and keep out a lot of the contaminants and moisture and things like that in your airline. So this is a cheaper Harbor Freight refrigerated air dryer. We used it for quite some time. It actually worked really well. We still use it from time to time, even whenever we're doing jobs, just running off one line and something like that, we still use it. And so it's very simple. The refrigerated air dryer, it has its own contained system to where essentially as the hot air comes into here, then it comes into here and then it refrigerates, literally just like a refrigerator, and then it cools the air off, and so then it sends it out at say 38, 40 degrees, something like that, to where it cools it down. So that way you don't have hot air coming out of your line and then condensing and making the actual water that is in your line. And so these are very simple to use. They're very easy to maintain. Essentially, like on something like this, all you do is you flip it on and it'll pretty much kick on. You got a fan in there. It's got all the fins and everything, and it also has an automatic drain. For something simple, for something that somebody that is using something like maybe a paint gun or something like that, these would work really well, and you don't have to rebuy desiccant all the time whenever you're changing out your desiccant, if you did go with a desiccant filter. So over time, sure, these are probably a little bit more inexpensive overall, instead of having to buy the desiccant all the time. But there is some maintenance involved. You got to clean out some drain lines if they ever get clogged up to make sure it still keeps purging the water out. You know, making sure that it's blown off, it's kept clean, you know, things like that. If something ever does go wrong, it's not just a simple, it's got an air leak in it or something. Most of the time, it's usually refrigerant, or, you know, it's going to cost a little bit more to fix. So that's where you're going to have to weigh in on, is it going to be worth it to just go with the desiccant filter, which is simple, easy to use, to replace the desiccant, you're good to go, or something like this, it'll last you a little bit more long term, but there is some a little bit more upfront cost most of the time involved in getting an actual refrigerated air dryer. Now, we got this, I believe it was actually through one of the sales that they were having. I want to say it was around $300-400, something like that. Most of the time you can catch them on sale for somewhere around in that area. Worked pretty well. The reviews on it, it was good and bad. Most of them were pretty good. We've had some pretty good success out of it, but we haven't used it a lot just because we have our main shop dryer that does all of the entire shop. And so the other thing is that you want to make sure is that you want to look at, like this right here, it shows capacity, 21.6 CFM. You can't put any more than this CFM through this machine without it going up in temperature and not doing the correct amount of cooling that's needed for the actual airline. So if you're pushing, say, 30 or 40 CFM through this, number one, you've got a pretty decent compressor. Number two, you've got a lot more CFM going through there, so it can't cool it down fast enough, which means your air temperatures are not going to drop down as much. So that's something to also remember as well, is that if you have a smaller compressor, even like a 5 horsepower compressor, and let's say an 80-gallon tank, those will actually do really well with something like this right here. Most of the time, the 5 horsepower compressors, normally they run about 15 to 20 CFM depending on the compressor, if you've just got a normal regular reciprocating compressor, and they work really well. So something like this for for a smaller shop will actually do really well for this. But if you do have something larger than that and you're pushing a lot of CFM, then of course you're going to need a bigger refrigerated air dryer. So I'll kind of show you what we're using, and also the type of air compressor that we've got as well, and show you a little bit different setup than kind of what this smaller unit is right here. So stay tuned. Okay, so you saw the smaller refrigerated air dryers, you saw some of the desiccant systems that we've got here, and then now this is one of the larger systems to run our larger air compressor. And so with this one, this is a refrigerated air dryer just like the one that I was showing y'all before, but this one does a lot more CFM. Still the same principle, still the same pretty much version of what we were showing you before, but it's just in a much larger capacity, as well as this one is of course a lot smarter. So we didn't go to Harbor Freight and buy this one, I can guarantee you that. This is a Kaiser. Kaiser makes really good components. They are a little bit pricey, not gonna lie about that, but we've absolutely loved it. It's been a great unit. We've got it about a couple of years ago, I think, and it's been running really well ever since. It's got an automatic on and off on it to where if it doesn't need to cool down anymore, it automatically shuts it off. Energy savings, it's great. This one right here I think will do somewhere around about 150 CFM on cooling, which is great because we have our compressor right here as well. So this is actually a rotary compressor, and so it makes a lot of CFM, and so we need that for whenever we're doing our sandblasting, or even running 2 or 3 paint guns at one time, or even sandblasting and painting it all at once, or anything like that. So whenever you get up into needing more and more CFM, the rotary is definitely the way to go for on-demand, 100% all the time. This thing can run day and night, never shut off, perfectly fine. But it does build up heat. And so what we have to do is we have to have the air coming out of the air compressor running into this, cooling it down. And so now whenever it goes through all of our lines in our shop and over to our sandblaster and everywhere in the shop, everything is cool, everything is condensed, and it's all condensed in the refrigerated air dryer, and then all that condensation that comes out of that air line, it gets shot out through a drain and it stays out of our air line. So again, something like this here, you're going to be talking about a lot of money, and it's going to be something for the long term, but it's something that it'll really help you out, especially in the summer months whenever it can get really brutal with temperatures in the low hundreds for sure, and then your air temperatures can be anywhere between 160 to even sometimes 200 degrees or more, just depending on how much you're working your equipment. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We wanted to kind of make a quick video on just, sometimes it's good to have maintenance, and sometimes it's good to know what you really need to know about air quality and maintenance and things like that. And even though these are not something that you'll go out and just buy every day, it's something that you definitely need to have if you're wanting to have a professional shop. So I'm Brian from Liquid Concepts. We're making Hydrographics great again. I really enjoy these videos. I hope you guys do too. If you have any comments, definitely leave them below, and we'll see you next time.